Hello, everyone. This is Joakim from Sabaton. You're watching Sonic Perspectives.
Good evening, Amsterdam! We're filming the show tonight, okay? I love you guys!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and my guest today is Joakim BRODÉN of Sabaton. Joakim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we're here to talk about the movie experience that Sabaton will provide to the fans on the last 2 days of October. Tell me about the genesis of this idea to have a show being screened at a movie theater.
Well, luckily enough, we didn't know it was going to be, shown in 1,500 cinemas around the world when we did it, because then we would have fucked it up. Sorry about the language.
That's all right.
But we recorded two or a couple of shows on the tour, and we wanted to, well, basically show a bit of the rest of the world what we're able to do in Europe, because we're doing about 15 to 20,000 people over there, and we're not doing that in North America or in Australia and certain other places of the world in Latin America.
Yeah.
So we figured, hey, maybe we should share this because it's the biggest production we ever brought on tour. And at that time, though, we didn't know. I mean, obviously, we knew we were filming, but not what we were going to use it for. But then after a while, doing a DVD or a Blu-ray or a streaming thing, it's like, it would have worked, yes, but it's kind of not as social. I mean, we thought like, oh, this feels like you're in the hall. How can we replicate that even closer?
Yeah.
And we figured if people go to the cinema, that'll be at least a closer approximation of a concert experience with other people around you than sitting at home watching on your,
For sure,
streaming device.
Yeah, and I hope this becomes a trend. I mean, I've attended a Rush event that was organized that way in a cinema. It was such a great experience. And I think Metallica did something similar a few years ago. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I hope it works, not only for us, but also because I think that would be, I would love to see concerts that way. I mean, go to the cinema and watch them with friends instead. Sometimes I might not be at home when my favorite bands come to town because I might be on tour somewhere else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned that you had the full production in Europe, and I guess there's an element of, there's a technical criteria of picking that show in particular, like accessibility, equipment being available, etc. But was there an element of, hey, I love playing at this location, let's record there? I know it's an iconic venue, the one you did in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, I mean, it had several things going for it, actually. One, the Dutch are really good at English.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to adapt language-wise, which would be good. I mean, one of the other shows we recorded was in Sweden, and obviously I speak Swedish. Less international appeal, obviously. And also the set list is sort of neutral, I guess. I mean, if we play in Poland, there's going to be a bunch of songs that we play only in Poland that are only relevant, really, for a Polish crowd. So from that perspective, obviously, but also that venue is quite modern. It has the space and the infrastructure to support a project like this. Everything, if we're talking about cranes, the possibility to run drones, remote cameras, need Wi-Fi, so it's a pretty big production. And most importantly, it's a bit later in the tour. We obviously had pre-production for a couple of days, but you don't want to record the first 3 shows of a tour.
Take those 3 shows to mess it up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And well, I know it has already screened a few days ago in theaters in Europe and Australia. From what I saw in the comments on when you guys are promoting, the reception has been tremendous, right? Have you checked those comments yet, or?
We looked at it. So far, mostly positive, which makes me happy. And it seems like a lot of people, at least in Europe, showed up to the theater. So there were very few empty rooms, if you will, which is good news. But unfortunately, we won't be able to join any of those because by the time we fly back to Europe, it's already over there. And it's a couple of days before it started here. So we're looking into if we can get a private screening somewhere, somehow, someone.
Right. Well, at the same time, like you mentioned, you're touring the US and Canada with Judas Priest. How is the tour going so far? I know it's like a second leg that you guys are doing, right?
Yeah. We did the first run in April, May, and then we took a break. And now we're doing the second run now. And I think we got I don't know, maybe 8 shows left or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a good run.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what's cooler to see on stage, the Sabaton tank or Rob Halford's bike. It's a toss for me, but yeah, it's awesome build, man. Awesome build.
Well, in this case, you don't have to choose. You'll get both.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, as a singer, it must be incredible to see a veteran and a pro like Rob Halford perform on stage every night. Do you have time to check out his performance on a few shows or not really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't go out every night, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many shows I've seen, between this tour and the past one. Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
I think I only seen the whole show like once,
Mm.
but usually it's like time for me to shower and stuff. So I break it up into pieces. Maybe I watch the first couple of songs one night, and then another night I'll go out after I showered. So I missed the first couple of songs, but I count those a few days earlier. So
Right.
I have seen the whole set, but only once did I
Mhm.
watch from beginning to end.
Right. Well, speaking of vocalists, I must say you have one of the most unique voices in metal. And when you started, the most common thing was to do the operatic singing, which you don't do, right? What was the process you went through to find your style and your voice at a time when, it was out of fashion completely in metal?
Well, I was lucky enough. I was never meant to be the singer of the band. They just
Mm.
told me, "You're the keyboarder. You'll sing until we find a singer." And I got some lazy bastards in the band, so I'm still singing because they
Right.
still haven't found a keyboarder 25 fucking years later. So unfortunately, I ended up being a singer, which I'm still coming to terms with somehow. But
Right.
I've gotten there now, yeah. But
Right.
it's I never thought of it because I couldn't sing high pitched, that style at all,
Mhm.
and I never really had to really think about my vocal style because it sort of developed for my natural voice over the years, and I never intended to sing at all. It's like something, yeah, I was good to keep pitch enough to do, maybe harmony vocals. That was in
Right.
my mind. Okay, if
Right.
I'm good enough to do some backing vocals and some choirs, that'd be fine. But then a couple of years later, they found a keyboarder instead. And I'm like, that's my job.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a different thing that, to sing behind a keyboard than to being in front of the stage and work in the crowd, right? So you had to adapt to that a little bit as well and walking around and everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of times, because obviously we recorded a demo and I said we don't have a singer. Yeah, we'll use the demo to find a singer. And then we heard the first couple of shows. And I mean, before that, I'd been playing live shows, absolutely, as a
Mm,
keyboarder and as a bass player as well.
mm,
I've played some stuff, but being a singer was a whole different ball game. I was almost sick.
yeah.
Had to run to the restroom 15 times before going, and almost throwing up. I was
Yeah.
horrible the first 10 shows or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely different for sure. And I have a question about the vest that you wear on stage. It's become quite a trademark for the band. I mean, how did you think of that? Was that in the beginning of the band, did you think of that, or was that over time?
That was a happy accident, actually. We were doing
Mm,
a music video for a song called Atero Dominatus,
mm,
and the director of that video, Ove, a drummer from Nocturnal Rites at the time, he wanted us to wear something different because it's going to be us in a bunker, basically.
mm.
And he wanted something that wasn't just black leather sort of thing. So he thought,
Right.
well, camo pants are more visible. So he put those on for the video, and I had bought that vest for fun, basically, in London the year before, earlier that year. And somebody suggested wear that, and I put it on. And it was only intended to be for that video, but everybody commented after, like, "Oh, cool stage
So
clothes."
cool.
So we
Yeah.
stuck with it. So it's just a lucky accident.
Right, right. Well, and you're doing the last few dates with Judas Priest, and I know there's a few shows already booked for March next year in South America. What's the plan until then? What are you guys gonna do?
Oh, we've already started working on a new album, so I think
Mm.
we'll keep on doing that. We have a Sabaton cruise coming in December as well. So
Oh,
hopefully soon enough we'll have some cool and fun news to share about music, more music in the future.
Awesome. Well, the War 20 Awards came out in 2022, and historically, you put out an album every 2, 3 years, so the timing is fitting for a new album already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and one sad reality about the music business nowadays is that a lot of artists don't see the value in releasing new music because no one pays for music anymore. Is that something that bothers you? And is that in your minds when you start working on new stuff? Or
Nah, not really.
Mm.
In a sense, well, yeah, I agree in that sense. It's a shame that nobody values, or no, there's a lot of people who value music, but the general public in many cases, see it as background noise today. However, in the metal scene, I think there are enough people who care about it, and we don't want to be a band who's like living off what we did 20 years ago. We're still young and sharp enough to be able to produce decent tracks every now and then. And
Yeah.
we figured for as long as we can and want to, we want to keep this going. I mean, it's not like it's something bad. We enjoy recording music, we enjoy writing music, we enjoy touring, and if we can, make a living out of that, we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that has created a side effect, which is bands finding new ways to make a revenue, right? I was at an Opeth show last night, and the line for the merch was just crazy. They had some interesting items, of course, and you have to be creative to put on like great merch that people will pay for, right? And you guys have a YouTube channel, which is another source of revenue for you as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a sense, it's a big part of the income that's gone. The days of really high fees for shows, they're still there, but there's so many people in between squeezing there, and there's a percentage on the merchandise to be paid. So I know a lot of tours these days wouldn't be economically viable if it wasn't for VIP experiences. It could be people who want early access, special seating, stuff like that. Yeah. So unfortunately, I think it's a shame, but it's the way it is, and we can't, run the business. We can only accept the facts and
of course
deal with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I mentioned the YouTube channel. As a Brazilian, I should thank you for doing the song Smoking Snakes and for doing a whole video explaining the story behind the Brazilian army. That was awesome. And, we don't have such a tradition of joining wars or anything, but that song in particular was awesome. I didn't even know about that, to be honest with you, that story.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was pretty unfamiliar to most Brazilians, I think. We were lucky. It was actually a Brazilian fan who sent us the mail, and there was very, very little info available in English. And so we had to work with the little we had in English, and we had some help from people translating stuff for us. But I mean, today we met some of them.
Yeah, well, it came out great, man. It was awesome. Thank you for that. But let me ask you about one of your most memorable videos, which is the one you did for Bismarck. It was done 5 years ago, and I still hear people talking about it. Even by today's standards, that was a massive undertaking to do that on a ship. Would you consider doing something so over the top like that again? I think it has almost 100 million views on YouTube at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's on 80 or something. I mean, the song worked out well, and it came at a time when very few people were doing big budget music videos. More people are doing it these days.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that point, it was us and Rammstein, really, in the metal scene. But we did it again with the Christmas truce, but the opposite thing, big production and everything, but we didn't do any CGI. That's almost exclusively real effects, sort of. So when you see an explosion and somebody flying, that's a stuntman with a bungee cord being thrown away from the explosion. That didn't go close to 100 million views. No. But yeah, I mean, we try every time to do something, but trying to sort of recreate the whole Bismarck thing, I don't think you win by trying to replicate what you've already done.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. And you've written songs about several nationalities, of course, but do you notice a difference in how fans from different cultures connect with your music? I mean, you mentioned Poland, where there's tons of battles in Poland and tons of songs that address those battles, right? Do you notice the difference as you tour from one country to the next, or?
Yes,
Mm,
definitely. But I think it's more cultural. Where in
mm,
which countries is it okay to be proud of your country? Where in which countries is the history interest among the younger generation higher, or the education system?
mm,
So I mean, in in the UK they don't really care if you sing about British history.
right.
However, if you go to Scotland and sing about Scottish history, then they care. So I think it's a cultural thing, because
Yeah.
Finland, absolutely, Poland for sure. But I mean, in many cases, Germany, not so much. They've been
Yeah.
taught it's not cool to like Germany, you know.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. I think, I live in Canada, by the way, and there's a sense of pride of being Canadian, but when it comes to war and things like that, there's an element of self-deprecation. So I don't think it goes down too well, but yeah. But people love you guys here, regardless. Yeah. And Sabaton's lyrics often focus on historical events, battles, and war heroes. How do you choose the stories that inspire your music? Is there a particular story of event that you're most passionate about?
Well, let's deal with the first one here.
Mm,
We have always, let's say, you have a big pile, a
mm,
library of ideas we want to sing about. So it depends. We usually do themed albums. So one is going to be World War One. So obviously, we only pick from the World War One pile,
mm,
or Last Stands we did. So we only took Last Stands. However, in many cases, the ones we were most passionate about aren't always in it, because there's also we need to have the right song for it. So when we did the Great War album, which is about obviously World War One, one of our favorite stories was the Christmas truce, but we
mm.
didn't have the right song, so we couldn't make that. We also wanted Harlem Hellfighters in there, but we didn't have the right music. Luckily enough, pandemic came, so we made another album and we could squeeze those in. But it's like every time we make an album, there's like one or two stories we really love that we didn't have the right music to, and there's
Mm.
always one or two things we didn't expect that pops up
Right.
closer. So it's tricky. But I mean, over the years, I don't think the moment I have one that I really, really wanted to make story-wise, make a song about that we don't have or have in the plans. But of the ones we've done, I think one of the most underappreciated stories is Witold Pilecki from Inmate
Mm.
4859, Polish resistance fighter, went to Auschwitz on purpose. And
Wow.
how Hollywood hasn't made a major production movie about him yet is beyond me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, one of the things that impresses me a lot is the historical accuracy that you guys address in depicting those events, right? There's like you make a point of telling the right story and telling it the right way, right?
Yeah, I mean, which way we just decide to tell it, it could be as simple as that's the most interesting way, or that fits the song best. I mean, Carolus Rex is sung from the point of view as Carolus Rex, the Swedish king, who was a bit of a madman. So it's it's sung
Yeah,
from that perspective.
yeah,
But I mean, it's quite important. I think history shouldn't be cleaned up, and it also shouldn't be not told because it's uncomfortable.
yeah,
I think it's important that when we deal with facts, we stick to the facts and nothing else. Don't try to avoid the uncomfortable ones, and or try to not talk about it, or don't only cherry pick the good stuff. It's
yeah.
important you try and get the whole perspective in there.
Yeah. If you ask me,
Uh,
that's probably why that story of the Polish guy who went to Auschwitz on purpose was never made into a film yet. Because right now the big trend in Hollywood is to hate on Jewish people. But anyway, I digress on that. Yeah, I guess that's the reason why. I don't know. Just thinking out loud here.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, he wasn't Jewish though. He was Polish.
Mm.
He has went there. He faked papers so he would seem Jewish, and then
Wow.
he got in, and then he collected data, and then he escaped and
Wow.
delivered that to the Polish government in exile.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Well, man, those are my questions. I just wanted to recap. The Tour to End All Tours will be screening in selected theaters in North America on October 30th and 31st. Like I said, I'm here in Canada. I'm yet to find a theater near me where it's going to be shown, but I'll make sure to do that. And you can find a theater near you and buy tickets on sabaton.film, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Joakim, thank you so much for the interview. I'll see you on the road sometime soon.
I hope so. Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Cheers.
Bye bye.